Welcome back to part 2 of the More About GUIs episode. In this episode we're going to implement a proper resetting mechanic for the camel mine, and I'll also be showing you how to use text fields and also how to synchronize, how to do the synchronization that is part of the text fields. So have fun. So let's to prove it works. Can reset it and run past it. But this isn't really resetting, is it? So let's implement that for fun. I won't record that because I think, well, changing the button text can be a bit tricky, so let's show that. You could change the logic in the camel mine to set it like if the timer is... we already do that. When the timer is -1, if you look at this, the timer isn't more than 0, so it won't be decreased. And it also does not equal to 0, because it's -1, so it won't be armed at that point. So we set the timer to -1. That will... you could make that a non-armed state which is not ticking down. So we could use that. And then when we get this packet, if timer equals -1, then set the timer to 60, and else set the timer to -1. If not armed, start arming. If armed, there we go. That should do it, really. And then in our GUI we could keep track of an instance of our button and then change the text of that button on the fly. Dry button, reset button. Like that. Not make it final. It's only possible in the constructor when you want to do that. I think we can just do it in here, or you could do it every render tick. So every render tick, which is a lot more than a normal tick usually, you can you could update the button text, but it might also be neat to use a update screen method. Which can be used to, well, in here it makes sure that the GUI is closed as soon as the player dies. So this one is called every world tick, and we can use that to make the reset button its text. Display string it's called. We can make that equal to reset, or we could do it like this. That might be a bit too hard, but I like to do it in this one-liner. Get timer. If the timer, which is being synchronized, so that should be fine. If the timer equals -1, that means the the camel mine is not armed, and we need to display on the button a reset text, a restart text, and also we need to display a reset text. So this is basic Java. When this condition is true, it will return this value. If this condition is false, it will return this value, or in this case it will stick this text onto here, and also it will stick that text to here, and then it will format the entire string. And we could even get rid of this one, because it will be updated by this one anyway. Huh. Oh. It does work. And it doesn't explode. And it will not ever explode. Unless we press restart, and then it now will be armed. Cool. Only problem is it will display -1 ticks. I think we should fix that. Well, let's just simply for now do a fdg get timer is more than or equal to 0, then just display that string. So now we'll do that, and it will get back into view. That works for me. So let's look at our time, and then maybe look at text fields. Looking at the time, I've decided to make it another 2-part episode, of which you're probably looking at the second part already. But we're going to show you how to do a text field. And to do that, like most of the times, looking at how Vanilla did it is the best approach. So you'll see there's a GUI text field instance, and if you look at where that's being used, so you could compare it to like a button, but a text field needs a lot more input. It will, well, we'll just go over it. So you can see it will pass the font renderer, so like the which font is being used, and the position and the width and the height again, and then the text color, and you can set a lot of things. So that's basically in initialization, not too special, makes sense. And if you look at here, you'll see there's a key typed method in GUI, which you need to override, and you basically need to forward to the text field. And this mouse clicked. So when you click your mouse, you can focus the text field or not. So when you focus it, it will respond to well, key input. And of course you need to draw it, and that's opposed to how the GUI button works, where you add it to the button list. The drawing will be done automatically, and you probably can see it in here. Or not, we can search for button list. Oh, that's in the... Well, rest assured, I'm sure that it will be it's done anyway. So the drawing, and that's about it. So you need to forward the drawing, the mouse clicking, and the key typing, and you need to initialize it. So it's a little bit more complicated than the button is. By the way, for this I looked at the GUI repair, which is the anvil. The anvil. I basically went like, where in vanilla are text fields used? And I was like, oh, well, in the anvil. So I'd like to copy it basically. That's the easiest method of doing it. And I think it would be neat to, we need to give it a use, the text field. And I'm thinking of actually when a user fills in a name, the bomb will only go off for that name. That might be cool. So like I said, copying that. And that should be it. And we can rename text field. Or like that. And that should be basically it. Let's rename some method names. Okay, that's it. And that should be working. It might be too big. And we also do want to do a max string length. Well, yeah, let's keep it like that. And when a key is being pressed, and basically it goes through this, and this method only returns true when it actually did something to the text box. So it did add a key or did remove a character. So it won't do anything when you press F5 or something, and this one will return false in that case, and it will let the super method handle it, or like in here it will do the escape button. So in here we can send a packet to the server updating the text field. Or shall we just show you that it works first? Let's do that. So that works. I did have to, by the way, remove those things that said to not render the text field, or just text basically. But it does work. You can put in text, and when you click away and you press keys, every key but the E key, so we have to move it where it can move. Let's just guesstimate at this. Well, that's pretty nice. Let's make it smaller. It's a little bit small, but maybe use this space as well. And let's make it, I'll be right back to make it nice. So that looks a little neater. Now let's add an action to it. And off camera I've done a few things already. I've refactored a little bit. I've created a message XYZ, which is an abstract package or message we're going to use for basically every message which contains an XYZ, which is surprisingly often when you have to do that. In Minecraft I've got a similar packet, and there are a few benefits of doing this. First of all, it saves you a lot of typing. Second, you can create these accessor methods you can use when you're decoding your packet or handling your packet. For example, I've rewritten the GUI button press packet to extend the XYZ packet, and now you just have to add an ID, and when it handles it, you just do a message.getToEntity. Another thing where it's very useful is when you want to send your packet. Now, especially when you want to send the packets to all people around a certain point or within range. For example, your description packets. Now, our description packets are done internally using vanilla methods. But if you want to do something similar to that, you could use this, and usually you have to supply your packet and a target point. So basically, the point where, basically you're going to give a range of which players are within range of where the packet needs to be sent to. So basically, you're saying in which dimension. So in the overworld at a certain XYZ, a player needs to be within a certain range of that XYZ and on the overworld to be a candidate to get sent a packet. But you could also make it a little bit easier, because for the target point you need to give it, every time you want to send that packet you need to give it the dimension, the XYZ and the range. But now we just have to supply the packet which contains the XYZ already and the world. And I derped something, I think. I need to switch that. That's a derp from my side, and that should do it. So first the dimension, then the X, Y and Z, and then the range, which usually is 64 blocks. There aren't many occasions where you want to have that a larger value. There is one, for example, in Minecraft, the elevator. When you have an elevator that's longer than 64 blocks, when you press the elevator collar to make the elevator go down, the elevator updates at the bottom of the elevator, not somewhere in the middle or at the player position. So that's where it's more than 64 blocks. I think 128. More maybe 256. Anyway, so this is a nice utility method used in combination with this utility class, really. And I also wrote this handle text update class, which we're going to use to sync our texts or text fields from and to the client. And you're seeing I'm using those bytebuff utils to read and write strings. I've discussed those in my networking tutorials. Okay, so let's sync that value. So first of all, it might be good to, when you open the GUI, set the text field to the text that's in the entity. Because when you start up a text field it will be empty, but let's say you've added a filter already, a enemy, a target, then you don't want to start off with a empty text field every time you start up the GUI. So let's do that. Let's do a text field set text, and let's make it the same as T. We still need to add that text, really. So do a private int target. Derp. We can do, just to make it fun. There was a thing I learned. Generate getters and setters. Haha. And you can put it after. There's another trick I learned. After target. Okay, do. After the update entity. Boom. So if you're quick in doing that, there's a. You could do add set. You could do Alt Shift S. So Alt Shift S, and you can do generate getters and setters. And if your cursor is between here, it will generate them between here by default. Anyway, that's a little trick. And also, let's edit in MBT. I'll be right back when I done that. And that's done. And I also made it a default of an empty string. Now in this GUI we can do a get target. And then when the key is typed, we can do a not update the key here, the entity, but send a packet instead. So we can do network handler send to server new message handle text update entity with ID 0 and the text of the text. Oops. There we go. So that will send it. And when it's being sent, I've added another handling method in here we can use. So that one is called. Basically, it's the same structure as the one that's doing the GUI buttons. You can look at my comment how I did it exactly. Entity camel mine. We can just do that, and that should do it. Now that's syncing from client to server, but we also need the other way around. Again, the same with how we did the timer value of the camel mine. So we need to go to the container and we need to send a progress bar update. However, that's, like I said before, for an integer value and actually a short value. So we can't really do that, but we could do a. We can do it pretty similar. If the last target whoops. Oh, and you need to be careful with strings. The best way to do it is like this. If it's not equals that, then we need to update it in the same way. Yes, we want to have the final to be removed. Now, how are we going to send it? We're going to send a custom packet again. And if you look at the type hierarchy, there are a few implementers of iCrafting. And just to be sure, we can do if crafter entity player MP. Then do We are only going to send to players that have the GUI opened again. So we can do a network handler send to new message handle text update the entity, the ID, the text, which is t get target, and the player, which is the crafter, which just needs to be cast. And cast that, please. Thank you. We could even do this because now it's just unnecessary casting. And this always should be true, really. But still, just to be sure. And the update progress bar, that's not where it's being received right now. So when we do a send progress bar update here, this will be the receiving side. When we send this packet, it will be received here, which is for the camel mine right here, which is good, actually. I think this should be it, really. So let's hope I'm right. And it works perfectly. If we do player and we go back in the GUI, that is a certain value. And if we relog, it doesn't update. Be right back. It doesn't work now, but I'm not sure why. And it just did some random text. And that's there, and when I relog... What? Oh, this might have to do with this method that's being called. There you go. You can read that. So that basically is meaning that when we do a change to a certain value, we need to save it. So that target is very important to do. Okay. I assume it works now. So if I do caps lock still on, tests, save it real quick. There we go. Nice. Okay. So we could use that to do a certain action. I could check it. Shall we do that right now? Okay, let's do it. We can do that real quick. We can do for entities if entity get commands in the name equals ignore casing and do target, then blow up and break afterwards, because else it will do for every thing. And do if target equals an empty string. So when it's an empty string, either when it's an empty string or it contains a certain name and the player that's within range is equal to that name, then blow up. So now it doesn't do anything, but if I do a player to 2, as soon as I type it in, I'll be dead. Or when I just remove the string, obviously. Player to 2. Let's make it player 2 first. And when I add the 2, boom, So you could use this to make the mine, target a certain entity. Nice, right? So I think this concludes this part. I still need to explain a few things I've done. I've added some things to make it work. If we look at the handle text a bit, we'll see a handle client side. So as soon as you're basically doing the container to the client updating, like you're doing here, from server to client, we're notifying the GUI of this text field update. So in this GUI, we're going to set the text. And you can imagine this is useful. You could say like, well, if you're on the client side, you fill in the text field. That's perfectly fine, and then you send the text field contents to the server. But what if another player is looking at that text field at the same time? When you press a key, it will be sent to the server, and it will also be sent from the server to the client. But the text field contents only will be set when the GUI is initialized. So this ensures that when the target changes, the text field also is updated, also for other players looking at it. So you can all read this in my comment. For now, this is the episode, the end of the episode. See you all next time. Thank you all for watching, and bye bye.